And but like everything starts. I started liking the game of hockey because I watched the Garden River Braves play. I didn't watch the NHL. I watched the Garden River Braves play, which my brother was part of, and that's where I really fell in love with the game. And we talk about journeys and how they begin. Mine began with, and I try to say this to as many young people as I possibly can, because whatever goal that you have in life and whatever ambition that you want, it always starts with that first step, that first day. And mine started in the back of the reserve with my first pail of water. I made a rink in my backyard, and we didn't go to the city to play, but I started made my own rink in the backyard, and the pail was only about this big, and I go back in the back of the house and pour the pail down, pack it down with my feet, to go back and forth. Now I think back, that must have took me a long time to make that rink, but that's where I fell in love with the game. That's where I played, nonstop from the time I got up, probably right till I went to bed. And my parents finally got enough money put together, and they put me in recreation hockey in Sault Ste. Marie, and I think I started there 8 or 9, and what have you. So my childhood was I couldn't have asked for anything more, but everything changed when I was 16 years of age. Somewhere. There must be a God for sure, because someone see me play. I didn't play AAA hockey. I didn't play AA. Someone saw me play, and they asked me to go out to the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhound training camp, of all places. And I went to camp. Obviously, I didn't make the team, but there's a team. Their farm team was in Kenora, Ontario, and that year was a defining moment in my whole life, because that was the year that I first time I ever left home. First time I ever really kind of faced any kind of racism or any kind of name calling. We went to the city of Sault Ste. Marie, and it wasn't, kids would be kids and they name call a little bit, but it wasn't that bad. But I went to Kenora. I never seen anything like it. I was 16 years old. My father just passed away that year, and anybody leaving home for any reason, it's tough. But when you throw name calling and racism and bullying and all those things on top of it was a very trying time. I used to cry myself to sleep for the first month I was in the team, and we didn't even play our opposition yet. This is just to try and play on that team. And my two brothers came to town to. We're all set for our first exhibition game, and my two brothers came to town to. I thought to watch me play, but in fact they came to bring me home. I guess during one of the letters I wrote home, I kind of stated I wasn't having a very good time playing there, and it was tough making friends. We fought at hockey a lot. I fought at school, and like I said, it wasn't very nice. So they came to town, and they wanted me to come home with them. And that moment, there's certain moments in your life that you kind of remember. And I remember going to the car with my younger brother Steve, and I said, Steve, I'm not going to go home. I'm going to stay. And I stayed not because I liked it where I was, but I stayed to prove that we could do anything we want to, and I wasn't going to let anybody chase me from that, except for myself. So I stayed, and like I said, I stopped going to school because school was probably worse than playing hockey. And I came back with 1 credit in high school. I don't know why they even give me phys ed. I wasn't there long enough to even do anything. So I came back with one credit. But during the year, I got a little closer with some people on the team. I got actually made some friends, and I won Rookie of the Year on the hockey team. And it really helped my development, because next year I went back to my hometown in Garden River. I went back out to the Sioux Greyhounds, and lo and behold, I made the team. And I always reflected back on that year in Kenora, because I think all young people, when we go through certain things, there's defining moments in our life that define us. And if I would have packed up and went home with my brother, I certainly wouldn't be here today speaking with you, and I certainly wouldn't be able to accomplish some of the things I did in hockey. And so I stayed, and thankfully I did, because the next year I came back home to Garden River, and I went out to the Sioux Greyhounds, and I made the team. And I had a chance to play with Wayne Gretzky, who was on the team at the time, Craig Hartsburg. I got drafted 2 years later by the Detroit Red Wings. I had a chance to play hockey, play pro hockey. I had a chance to play, like I said, Wayne Gretzky. I had a chance with Stevie Yzerman, who's one of the all-time greats, and obviously Mary Lemieux in Pittsburgh. And I had a chance to play at the Montreal Forum. And what about those Canadians right now, huh? So I had a chance to play at the Montreal Forum. I had a chance to play against the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Chicago Blackhawks, and all those teams. And I say that because if I would have left when I was 16 years old, I would never have been able to do that. So my message was out to the kids was, and my message to my brother, that it takes some work and it takes some perseverance to fight through those ugly things that we have to fight through. And so I fought through it. I had a chance to, like I said, play. And as much as I love to play, I was playing with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I got hit at center ice, and I ruptured 3 discs in my lower back, and it forced me to retire. It forced I couldn't play hockey anymore. And playing hockey your whole life, you don't think anything else. So, but I knew education was very important. So after I quit or got hurt from hockey, and I'll have to backtrack on that a little wee bit, because as happy as I was to get drafted, and as happy and proud as I was to play in the National Hockey League, I wasn't so happy. I was happier when I got hurt and I couldn't play anymore. Because going through some of the things we went through, and I'll close off with that later on, some of the hurdles that you have to get through, some of the name calling that you have to go through, and some of the prejudice and race of it, it's not very good. It's not very nice. And there was a lot of times I questioned what I was doing. But anyways, I fought through it. But the day I got hurt was the day that I was really happy, because I didn't have to go through it anymore. I didn't have to go through that name calling. I didn't have to go through the prejudice anymore. And I was back home in Garden River, and I enrolled back in the school. I had visions of being maybe a businessman of some sort. But I enrolled in Lake Superior State University across the river from us here in Sault Ste. Marie. And just one day, I was walking down the corridor, and I met the head coach of the Lake Superior State hockey team, and he found out that I was a pro player, and he'd asked if I'd be interested in helping him out during hockey practice, which I gladly accepted. And coaching is one of the last things I ever want to do. I never really wanted to coach. I never thought about coaching. I thought about going to school, and then it's funny. Things happen for reasons, and I was helping out the Lake Superior State University hockey team. And here's a name that people should know, is Phyllis Bizzito, one of the all-time great NHL players. And he's from Sault Ste. Marie, and he owned the Sioux Greyhounds. And he found out I was helping out the American team. And he said, "Ted, what are you doing having those guys? You should help us. Why don't you come over and be a part-time assistant coach if you like?" So I gladly accepted. I was going to school, helping out with the Sioux Greyhounds. And then all of a sudden, one night, Phil calls me up at home, and he says, "Ted, we're letting the head coach go tomorrow, and we want you to take over." And my first response was to Phil was, "No, I can't coach. I'm not ready to coach." So I said no. And he said, "Just for a little while." I said no again, and finally he talked me into it. He said, "Ted, just for a little while until we find somebody," which I did. And our team wasn't very good at the time, and I was even worse. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to coach. I kind of remembered what I did when I was playing, but that was about it. And then all of a sudden, the fans started booing. They're booing our team. They're booing for me to get fired, and I thought I was just doing Phil a favor to coach. And then that word, when somebody says you can't do something or you're not allowed to do something, is probably a bit of motivator for me my whole life. When someone says you can't, I just really want to prove that you could. So I went out and studied how to be a coach. I called up 6 or 7 of my coaches that I played for. I learned from them. I learned about a practice plan. I learned about line combinations. I learned about length of shifts. I learned as much as I could from 6 or 7 coaches. I went to the library and got some books. And one of the books I bought was Sacred Hoops. And I thought it was a spiritual book because I seen Sacred Hoops. So it kind of intrigued me. Then I bought the book, but it was a book by Phil Jackson, the legendary coach for the Chicago Bulls, and who they won 7 national championships in basketball. So I read it, and it was so fascinating that because he studied off Sitting Bull's great nephew, native spirituality, and he grabbed some of that spirituality and he put it into his basketball team. And I'm going, geez, if Phil Jackson could do it with Dennis Rodman and Michael Jordan and all those greats, I'm quite sure I could do it with junior kids in junior. So I took some of those ideas and what I grew up with, and I had a lucky chance to. There's some people in the audience crew as old as I am. Remember the Broad Street Bullies, Philadelphia Flyers, Reggie Leach and the whole gang. And I was kind of a fan of theirs. And I really liked Fred Shiro for some reason. I liked the way he coached. So I ran into his son one day and I asked if he had any material he could share with me. And he sent me some drills and what have you. And on one note, it said, you have to learn to win with what you got or you don't win at all. And it made so much sense to me. You have to learn to win with what you got or you don't win at all. And because it just, 3 months before, I was hoping for a better team. I was hoping for a better goalie. I was hoping for bigger defense. I was give me a goal scorer. All these things that and I forgot about what I had. I had a whole bunch of pretty good young athletes that had their own skill, and I had to learn to work with what I had. And so between Phil Jackson book and learning all this stuff from other coaches and Fred Shiro, I went back to the Sioux Greyhounds next year. And what do? We won the league championship, and we went to the Memorial Cup, which is from bottom to first. And then we went to the second year. We went back to Memorial Cup, and the third year was a magical year. I guess we really learned how to put it together, and winning's hard. Winning's very hard, and so we finally learned how to win, and we won the Memorial Cup in 1993, which is I still think one of the highlights in Sault Ste. Marie sports and the surrounding area to have a Memorial Cup championship right here in Sault Ste. Marie. So it was a lot of fun. But then right after that, when you have some success at a certain level, the higher levels start calling, and I got a call from the NHL and see if I'd be interested in coaching there. And I became an assistant coach with the Hartford Whalers. For some of the people who don't know what the Hartford Whalers are, they're the Carolina Hurricanes. Now they changed over. So anyways, I coached their team for one season, and then the Buffalo Sabres called me for I don't know how they called me that quick, but anyways, they called me and asked if I'd be interested in coaching their team. And I went in for the interview, and I got the job. I became the head coach of the Buffalo Sabres. 2 years after leaving junior hockey, and which was a lot of fun. We had a bunch of really good players. We won the Northeast Division title. Even won coach of the year in that year. But it was so much fun, and I thought it was going to be the start of a long NHL career. Boy, was I mistaken. That year should have been a year to look forward to a long career, but that year turned out to be the end of my career. I had some disagreements with our general manager at the time, and he didn't want me back. And anyways, they gave me an offer they knew I'd refuse, which I did. And I didn't coach for 10 years. I mean, from coach of the year to not coaching hockey for 10 years was you still question, the barriers became so big. I mean, I couldn't fight a organization like the NHL and say, hey, they did this or did that, or so I just walked away. But before I go on, there's one part of the story that I don't say too often, but when I got let go by the Buffalo Sabres, I did get a call from Phil Esposito again, and he coached the Tampa Bay Lightning, or he was the manager of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and he'd asked if I wanted to be coach there, and I was so excited. I came home and told my wife, said, Phil just called, want to go to Tampa Bay, and then all of a sudden I look at her, she wasn't as excited as I was. Then I look at Brandon, and he wasn't really excited about going to Tampa Bay either. He was a 12-year-old, and he loved playing hockey as much as I did. And he almost kind of, where am I going to play down in Tampa Bay? And my wife, she started crying a little bit, and he had some tears, and Jordan was looking at him. So what turned out to be a happy time turned out to be not a good time. So I had to call up Phil and say, thank you, but I have to stay home. And to make a long story short, Brandon made his NHL debut against the Tampa Bay Lightning, I think 10 years later, 11 years later. I may have turned down an opportunity to coach, but sometimes family is way more important than jobs. And so we stayed, and I thought for sure another job offer was going to come, but it didn't. And I'd be lying if I wouldn't say I was disappointed. I was frustrated. I was angry. I wasn't a very good guy to be around for a little while, because I took it too personally, and I said, how can I not coach? And nobody would give me interviews, and it was very frustrating. And I became something that I didn't want to become, and I kind of let the game get a hold of me, and which I never did my entire life. And anyways, this happened for about a year and a half, 2 years. I was feeling sorry for myself and what have you. And I was walking down the street one time, and I walked by a movie theater, and the Muhammad Ali movie was on with Will Smith. And I'm a big Ali fan, so I went to the movie to kill the afternoon. But that movie changed my life, because I seen Muhammad Ali. They took his boxing license away because he wouldn't report to the war. The Muslims kicked him out of his faith because he wasn't famous anymore, for whatever reason. And he was broke. He was down and out, but his whole attitude was the same. And he said, I may not be a boxing, but I'm still a champion. I may not be a Muslim, but I'm still so his attitude was so powerful that I'm going, man, here I am crying about a job, crying about, because I couldn't. So I came out of that movie a changed man. I said, I'm not going to let hockey define me and who I am and what I want to do. So I walked out, and like I said, I was changed. And the first thing I did was I called up a few chiefs back home, and I said, I got a great idea. I said, let's have a golf tournament and we'll raise some money. Then he said, for what? I said, I'll tell you when we get there. And a few chiefs came, and they thought I was going to raise some money for sports. That would be the obvious choice. But I said, no, we're gonna do it for our women. We're gonna start a golf tournament, and we'll help as many girls here in Ontario pursuing education. How much money we make, we can give out. So we did that for a couple of years. And then I met a real good friend of mine who recently, a number of years ago, passed on. His name was Ray Martin. And Ray said, Ted, I think we could make even more money by starting a foundation. So in 2004, we established the Ted Nolan Foundation. And I'm very proud to say, I think up to date, we closed it 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago. Today, I think we give out over $2 million to First Nation women pursuing education, whatever education they want, or they feel it's important to them. We wanted to encourage. So I'm very proud of that, because like I said, my mother was a big influence in my life. She taught me who I was as an Anishinaabe, to be very proud of who I am. And I think those are the traits that really helped me when I was going through some of those moments when I was in Kenora, and people were bullying and picking on you because of the way you looked. And but I always felt strong because I was proud of who I was, and I got that from my upbringing. My parents really instilled in me how strong our people were, and how strong we are. And some of the residential schools, like we're hearing about now, some of the things that our people had to go through, and how resilient they were. So that's how I became who I am, because of the upbringing and surrounding that I was gifted to be surrounded with at the beginning. So all those things that I did was to that moment. Then we started like I said, the Rose Nolan Scholarship Fund. We give out scholarships right across the country now, and like I said, it was up to I think we give out close to $2 million. But and I was really happy. I was happy doing that. We're doing some other programming. I have a great chance to work with my two boys. We started up the 3 Nolan hockey schools. We go in and it's a kind of a trick. We get the kids there for hockey, but we talk to them about the importance of education, about healthy choices and healthy decisions, and the importance of higher education. So that's the whole crust of our hockey school. So doing that was a lot of fun, and still is. And then doing the foundation, one of the things I never ever thought I would ever do again was to coach hockey. And because I tried, nobody would call me back. I put out applications everywhere. No one would call me back. And that's what he said. That's why I got frustrated, and that's why I walked away. Then all of a sudden, I'm sitting at home one night. I get a phone call from Mr. Robert Irving, the Irving family out in East Coast, Irving Oil, and I certainly knew who they were, and I knew who Robert was, but I didn't know that he owned a Quebec Major Junior Hockey League team. And he called me up. He said, "Hey, Ted, this is Robert, and I'm not too sure if you know who I am." I said, "I certainly do know who you are." And he said he asked me to come up to Moncton and coach his hockey team. And he's going by Toronto. He wanted to meet with me, and I mentioned to my wife, I said, "I'm going to meet with him, but I'm not going to Moncton to coach. That's the last place I want to go to." In the Quebec League, I didn't speak the language, and so forth. And plus, I was happy doing what I did. And a week later, I met Robert in Toronto. We sat down and we had a conversation. About 10 minutes in the conversation, I forgot my phone. I borrowed his, and I called Sandra at home. I said, "Guess where we're going? We're going to Moncton." And from leaving that home that morning to saying I'm not going to Moncton, to all of a sudden 3 hours later calling home and said we're going to Moncton. And it was probably one of the first times in my whole coaching career that I felt wanted. I felt he wanted me to really make a difference with his team. He was so proud of his team, his town, his city, his province, and I went there and had one of the best years. We won the Quebec League Championship. We went to the Memorial Cup, and all of a sudden, NHL comes calling again. I had a chance to coach the New York Islanders. Even had a chance to coach back to with the Buffalo Sabres, and I got a really interesting call one night. Was from the Latvian national men's team. I got a friend of mine who knows the team called me up one night and said, "Hey Ted, you want to coach Latvia?" I said, "What team's that?" He said, "No, it's not a team, it's a country." I said, "What league do they play in?" So they played in World Championships against Team Canada, and I said, "Oh, that's a team that gets beat 15-1, 10-1, and those teams." And he said, "Yeah, they're looking for a coach." So, anyways, I went over, and probably one of the best hockey experiences I ever had in my life. We went over and coached. We won a certain conference or tournaments which qualified us for the Olympic Games, and then here I was from Garden River, coaching Team Latvia in the Olympic Games. So I wasn't so proud of being part of a team my entire life at the Olympic stage. So and the reason I tell you that is sometimes in life we don't control everything, and everything in life happens for reasons. I'm a strong believer in certain things happen, and you don't understand sometimes. And like when I cried myself to sleep every night in Kenora for the first month and a half, I'm going, there's got to be a reason for it. And for all the kids that went before me that left too soon and didn't. And so here I was, coaching Olympic Games. I was, and like I said, it just right then and there, you kind of reflection back of certain things happen for reasons, and so it changed my whole outlook when I was when I was doing presentations, especially to the youth about the power of education, and I really wanted to give a message out. And ever since that first game I played against the Chicago Blackhawks, the locker room is below the ice surface. You walk upstairs, you walk outside, and there's great big Oregon Chicago Blackhawks with Stan Mikita and Bobby Hall and Gordy, Bobby Orr, and all the greats of the league played. I played my first game there, and I remember walking up the stairs, and I had some tears in my eyes, and these were not tears of sadness, but they're tears of joy, because I dropped tobacco before the game, because I really wanted to thank all the people before me that made it possible for me to play the game. They said we didn't have a whole lot, and people chipped in. They bought me a winter coat in a winter sometimes. So that first game, and that's what I really wanted to share with our youth about. No matter where you go in life, and sometimes it's going to be a struggle, and sometimes it's going to be smooth, but it's all part of life. And so I changed my whole presentation. I really wanted to talk to the kids, and I like to leave it with you. And I developed my 4 pillars of life that I really believed helped me to get what I got, and help me overcome certain obstacles in life. Because one of the easiest things I could have done, and one of the easiest things a lot of people do when things get really, really tough, you go home, and you go where it's comfortable. And I still remember I played my first season in Kansas City, Detroit's farm team, and I first time in my life I really got scared. The guys were big. I wasn't quite ready, and I went home, and I got home, and my mom turned her back on me for about 2 seconds. She was happy to see me back home, but she was disappointed that I left, and I knew she was disappointed that I left. And Ted Lindsay, one of the great players of all time, he was a general manager. He called me up and brought me back to Kansas City to start my career. So that was the only time that I ever left. And so I really wanted to leave a message with our kids, versus telling them, you should have seen my first goal, or you should have seen this first thing. I really wanted to give a message about what can really make a difference in their life, and what can really help. That helped me. So I developed my own 4 pillars, I call them, to anybody out there, whatever you do. And the first pair of skates I ever had were size 8. I think my feet were size 4, and I just put rubber boots on and made them fit. I played recreational hockey, but if I knew where I was going to, the number one thing I had to learn to do was to work, and to if it wasn't working out, I had to work harder. So number one is, whatever you do, it takes a lot of work, and sometimes even if sometimes you work, it's not working hard enough, so you almost have to overwork. So I worked on my game. I really worked on it, and I worked on certain things to help me to develop. Number 2 is perseverance. Because sometimes, no matter how hard you work, sometimes it still doesn't seem to work out. And some of the easiest things that we do is to quit, and to walk away before we find out the end of the story. And I didn't know what perseverance meant until I was in Kenora. And boy, I had all kinds of reasons to leave, and all kinds of my father just passed away. I didn't like the team. I didn't like the city. I didn't like anything about it. And one of the easiest things I could have done was to leave, but I didn't. I stayed, and thankfully I did. So you got to work, you got to persevere, and what we're doing here at your great institute is knowledge. We have to learn, and sometimes we work as hard as we want, but we're doing it wrong. We just have to learn how to do it better. And so I learned how to bend my knees a little bit. I learned how to keep my head up a little. I practiced on my shot. I learned all the things that I had to learn, like even with public speaking. In my first public speaking, I really wanted, I told my brother one time, I said, I really want to give a message out to our kids about working really hard, and you can't, don't let anybody tell you. And they invited me to the Sault Ste. Marie Recreation Hockey Banquet after I played my first year in the National Hockey League, and asked to be a guest speaker. And I prepared the speech, and I studied it for about a week and a half in front of the mirror at home, driving in the car. And this is the first speech I ever did. I said, hi, my name is Ted Nolan. I was born and raised on the, as you're all aware, I'm born and raised in Garden River, played my minor hockey right here in the city, got drafted in 1978 by Detroit Red Wings. I just completed my first year in the National Hockey League. Thank you very much for inviting me. Is there any questions? And that was a speech I prepared for about a week and a half. And the guy who introduces me at the banquet, he said, our guest speaker tonight is Ted Nolan from Garden River, played his minor hockey right here in the city. Got drafted in 1978 by Detroit Red Wings, just completed his first year. I'm going, oh man. And I remember elbowing my wife, my girlfriend at the time. And I said, man, I can't say the same thing this guy just said. So I got up to the podium, and I froze. And I absolutely froze. My lips started quivering, and having darker skin. I red and brown make purple. I was like a purple ball, but it's probably the most embarrassing situation of my entire life. And my brother a couple of days later said, remember when you said you want to speak to our kids? I said, I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. So I said, we could make it happen. We just got to learn how to. So I joined Dale Carnegie courses. I Toastmasters. I volunteered everywhere that I could possibly speak at, to learn to get over the fear of public speaking, because I think public speaking is one of the hardest things to overcome. It took me 6-7 years to learn, to get over that fear. But and just shows that whatever you want in life, it might take a long time. That first pail of water that I poured behind my house in Garden River, I was 7-8 years old. 16 years later, I played my first game in the National Hockey League. So it doesn't happen overnight, but if you just keep chipping at it, things work. So knowledge is very, very important to learn. Don't let anybody ever tell you you can't do certain things. At the time, you might not be able to, but you got to learn. You got to learn how to. And once you learn how to, anything's possible. And once I learned how to coach a little bit better, our team won. And so, like I said, everything. So you have to work, you have to persevere, and you have to gain knowledge. But my all-time favorite is the power of belief. You really have to believe in what you're doing in order to, because if you're not enjoying what you do and you don't like what you're doing, it doesn't matter how much you work. It's just your heart's not going to be into it and what have you. So I just think the power of belief is whatever you want in finding a way. And I like to close off by saying the story, and I say it very proudly everywhere I have a chance to speak in front of a group. When I was coaching, and we'll get into the cultural awareness. We have to start developing a I see me culture where people could see us. Kids need to see us in certain positions. We need to see them. So it's not a rarity that you see one of us do certain things. We have to really work on that. So my final one is the power of belief, and it came so true when I was coaching the Buffalo Sabres, where maybe about a week before playoffs, or 2 weeks before playoffs, or no, 2 months before playoffs. But we had a good chance knowing that we were going to play the Ottawa Senators in the first round. I was skating around a skate one day, and a Russian player skated up to me and said, "Hey, coach," he says, I said, are you an Indian? I said, so one of those guys. I said, yeah, one of those guys. Yeah, I'm an Indian. He said, I watched a movie last night called Dance with Wolves, and they had real. And I said, are you one of those guys? Yeah, and he didn't really know. And so we're talking back and forth. And said, yeah, I'm one of those guys. He said, well, on the movie they had a medicine man. And I said, they said a medicine man is very, very powerful. And I said, yeah, they're pretty powerful. Uh, well, Ottawa has a Buddha in their dressing room. Uh, Maybe we can bring the medicine man. Is a medicine man more stronger than a Buddha? So I'm not too sure if he's more powerful than a Buddha, but I know one. So so I called up a good friend of mine back home. And because I asked the players if this is to see if he was really serious, he really wanted to have a medicine man come down and talk to us. So I called up a good friend of mine, Jake Pine from Garden River, who recently passed away not too long ago. But Jake was the guy that I went to for advice on certain things. And so I called up Jake. I said, hey, Jake, the boys want you to do ceremony. He said, where? I said, I'm coaching Buffalo and we're playing Detroit. He said, Detroit who? Then he pretended he didn't really know what the NHL was, which he knew. And so anyways, I said, we're playing at Joe Louis Arena. It'd be great if you can come down and do a ceremony for the players. So Jake came down in his regalia, and he had Jack. I didn't know he had Jack, and he had mucklucks on and a big bag hanging from eagle feathers. And I mean, he looked the part. And he was standing in the crowd, and one of the players says, "Is that him?" I said, "Yeah, that's Jake." So, but anyways, he came down to the locker room, and you got to imagine the NHL. We have access to psychologists, motivationalists, nutritionists. We have the weight conditioning, strength coaches, skill development. We have more things you could shake a stick at. We stay at 5-star hotels. We have the best food money can buy. We fly in an airplane, a private airplane. So everything and here I was in Joe Louis Arena with all the luxurious things around us. And Jake from Garden River was doing a ceremony in our locker room. And it was one of those things I'll always remember. Jake was speaking the language and is showing the boys how to smudge. He had the eagle feather waving all the guys. And you could look at them; they had eyes like silver dollars, just staring at them. And he did a wonderful job. And I mean, that's part of diversity and inclusion to instead of being afraid, learn about someone. So the players really got a chance to learn a little bit about me. I got a chance to learn about them. And but as anybody knows, whether you're First Nation or Indigenous or whoever you are, athletes are superstitious people. And so right after the ceremony, Jake did it. One of the players walked up to him and said, "Hey, medicine man, I haven't scored a goal in about a month and a half." He says, "You got anything in that bag that could help me score a goal?" So Jake took out some tobacco and he sprinkled the stick. Sure enough, we played that night. We lost the game 3-2, I think, and the player scored a goal. And anyways, we go back to Buffalo. And next night we play again. There's a knock on my coach's door. Same player. Say, "Hey, coach, you have any more of that medicine?" So I carried tobacco with me all the time. So I sprinkled this stick. Sure enough, he scored another goal. And then 2 days later, we play somebody out. He came knocking on the door again, and but this time he had 3 buddies with him. 3 NHL players are all making over $1 million, and they had their sticks over my desk. And I think as educators and as positions that we work with people, there's moments in our careers that we have a chance to inspire. And I'm saying this is my chance right here. So I kicked the players out of the room, and I put them all inside the main dressing room. And I brought my tobacco pouch over with me. I got all the sticks and I put them in the center ice. And I don't speak the language fluently, but I was just learning. My lesson plan that week was come in, sit down. You want to drink some tea, hat, and feed the dog, something like that. So I said, I'm going to do it just like Jake did. And I walked around the room and I said, "Being again." The players didn't know what I was talking about. They thought I was calling in the spirits. And Namdven. Maybe shovel now. We min queen. I was come on, drink some tea. We quan hat. Shum the mush dog. So I said it, and I said shum the mush 3 times, and I grabbed all my tobacco and I threw it on the sticks. And the players were looking at me just like they're looking at Jake. Their eyeballs were this big, and they grabbed their sticks. We ran out of that room. I think we played Philadelphia that night, and I think we beat them 6-2. It wasn't even close. I mean, we were all over them from start to finish, and the players felt so good. We won 17 of our next 18 games. We won the Northeast Division title, and people always ask me, what's your coaching style or what's your coaching philosophy? It's always been, if you treat people good and you treat them with respect, things usually work out. And so it was a great, and that's why I'm a strong believer in the power of belief, because I really believe things will change if people have more understanding. People know who we are, and we know who they are. And I think right now, you still get asked the question, you guys still live in teepees? I'm going, give me a break. But it's all about knowledge, and it's about sharing and caring for one another and giving each other an opportunity. There's just so much. So I could rabble on forever about certain things, but racism and prejudice and diversity and inclusion in sport and in all facets of life should be really worked on, because there's just so many things that certain people from different ethnic groups can add. We add to society. So when I first got one of the jobs in hockey, everybody talks about you have to be on the same page. And I always told myself, I said, it'd be a pretty boring book if everybody's on the same page. Everybody has to be different. And I think that's what makes the world unique and fun. And I'm very proud of being an Anishinaabe. I'm very proud of who I am, of where my ancestors, where we come from. And I'm very, very proud. But are we any more important than some other ethnic group? No. Everybody's important. So I just think it's time that we look for the soul of the person versus what they look like, because I think people be surprised of the friends that they could make, and relationships they could build with other people from different backgrounds. Just like the year I went to Kenora, I didn't like the place at all, and they didn't like me. But towards the end, there were some guys on the team that I got a chance to meet and became friends with, and some of the people from the city I even became friends with. But it takes some time. I think the quicker we work on it, the quicker we'll be. And we got to develop that culture of I see me culture. So it's not a rarity that we see one another. But anyways, that's the thing that I really wanted to share with you and today, that we have to learn to respect one another and to work with one another, and you never know where life leads you and what life brings. But it's very important if you go through it with a very optimistic view and excitement about certain things. And because if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't want to know the ending, because the journey is the fun part. I mean, that's even those times when you get rejected. I mean, when you get rejected, it just makes you want to work even harder to prove that you can. So use those rejections as well as you use acceptance. Learn from everything. So I just really want to thank you for being for us to be part of your day, and to all the students, people who work at the university. Keep up the great work, and you make us proud.
Wow. That was powerful, Ted. Thank you so much for taking your time to engage us. You have such a high sense of humor, high sense of humility. Through your sharing, I would like to read some of the statements that we have here that have been coming through. And as I read them, I would encourage all of us, if you have questions for Ted, please feel free to post them in the chat. I'm just scrolling down so that I can read. You are a cultural ambassador in hockey. Blessings to your home, Garden River. I was there on the day of the Memorial Cup, and I continue to cheer for you and your family. Your spirit continues to inspire as strong today as then, and for that, you're a hero. I can't tell you how exciting last year was. That was exciting, and that was from Heather.
Well, thank you, Heather.
Another very inspiring statement here from Sasa. It says, yes, it was the belief of the players that helped them win. The tobacco was the influencer, too powerful. A comment from Jody Rebecca. Jody says, incredible, Kinoomaage. I appreciate you sharing. I so appreciate your leadership. It is an inspiration to me and so many. Miigwech to Sasa, SK, and EDI for organizing this. And lots of Chimigwech from very many people who are so excited to be here, to sit and to listen and to learn from you. From our President Osma Vezina, she says, we all bring so much to this world, the beauty of diversity, love and kindness, respect one another, work with one another, optimism. The journey is the fun part. And no matter how hard life gets, there is a lesson and there's a teaching. Another comment, another sharing from A. Anot. Beautiful words shared today. I feel like a winner by just being here and listening. Chimigwech for the opportunity to be here, to the organizers and especially Ted Nolan for such a powerful experience. All the best to all of you. There's a question here from Rebecca, and Rebecca is asking, do you still have the love of the game through the eyes of the 8-year little boy, despite what you went through?
Rebecca, that's a tough question because I loved the game when I was growing up. I didn't like the the political part of the game. I loved the game with the simplicity of the game, and that's why I introduced it to my boys, because I thought through sport they could learn to make friends and travel and get to see certain parts of life, even with the minor hockey league. So I love the game. Professionally, that's a tough one. I didn't like, and I think that's what the NHL has to do. They have to bring more diversity and more inclusion into the game. That we need more colors. It's 90, 97, 95% white. So it's tough to fit in. And it's tough to feel part of it. And I think that's why we did that. I did that documentary this summer with TSN called The Unwanted Visitor. And that's how I felt. That's how I felt in the game professionally. Not so much when I was a kid, but when I started playing the game competitively, I didn't feel wanted. I didn't feel part of it. And so I think that's a part of the game that they really, really got to work on and make it more accepting to all, not just some.
Thank you for responding to Rebecca's question. A hockey game is also a very expensive game. Do you think that is also one of the aspects that keep many parents from being able to afford hockey for their kids?
Oh, no question. I mean, if I grew up the way I grew up now, there's no way I could play. There's no way. I mean, we played recreational hockey, which maybe $20, $30 at the time. There wasn't AAA hockey schools and all that stuff going on. So to play at this level, you have to have a lot of extra stuff: the practicing, the stick handling, the skill development, the conditioning. I mean, all those aspects. If you don't have it, boy, it's pretty tough. And I was looking at that myself. Like I said, I've been blessed now. I've been married for 41 years. My wife and I have been together since we were 16 years old, so a long time. And we have two boys. And I never put them in hockey to play professional hockey, but they both became pro players. And but I was lucky enough to be able to put them in AAA programs, get them the better skates, better hockey schools, better because if they didn't, they wouldn't have been able to keep up. Because you go to training camp now, you have to be in great shape, or don't even bother going. And where are you going to get in great shape if you haven't got luxury to a gymnasium or a strength conditioning coach to know what the levels are? So it's pretty tough, but there's still that natural ability that people find their way.
Thank you so much for responding to that. There's a question here from Carrie Ann, and she asks, MJHL just implemented anti-racism player education program. Are you working on helping to work on other policy projects?
I'm sorry?
There's an acronym here, MJHL, Major Hockey League.
Okay.
I'm assuming just implemented anti-racism player education program. Are you working on helping to work on other policy projects?
Yes, I mean the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, the Alberta Junior Hockey League, the Saskatchewan Junior League, all the leagues. They have to really step up their game a little, make it a little bit more inclusive to certain levels. And I said that's why I'm so happy and so proud to be part of my two boys. Brandon came up with the idea about having a hockey school to give our kids a little bit of an idea if they plan on going to the next level. These are some of the things you have to be able to do. You can't show up to practice late. You can't show up to the training camp out of condition. Those type of things. You have to make sure you're as ready as you possibly can for all the steps that are going to be required. And all the leagues, they have to have an education on top of it to understand where our kids are coming from, because sometimes they haven't got the ice time. I did that in junior hockey. I was lucky enough to coach junior hockey here in Sault Ste. Marie, and I invited two kids from First Nation communities, and I knew they didn't skate all summer, and then our management wanted to cut them the first hour. I'm going, you got to give them a little time to catch up. They're not born in Toronto where they have to get the skate all the time. These kids haven't seen the ice since last winter, so there's got to be a little understanding on both sides.
Absolutely, and thank you for responding to that question. There's also a question here from Dania, and he asks, what were examples of racism and prejudice that you faced during your life?
Oh man, where do we start? I mean, I never really faced it until I went to Kenora, and I mean, first hockey practice, I fought some guy's big guy too. He was pretty big. He stuck me in the ribs and he said, "What are you doing here?" You thinking, "Wahoo!" I'm going, "What?" And thank God, my brother Terry, before he was a pro boxer. We learned to take care of ourselves pretty good. Thank God I did, because it wouldn't have been pretty. And so I fought there. I went out one night, and we hear about missing and murdered all the time, and I could have been one of those kids. I was walking down the thing that a couple of guys wanted to throw me over the bridge, and thank God I could wrestle myself out of the danger, and somebody seen and helped me. When I play with the Sioux Greyhounds, I got left behind twice. I mean, who leaves a kid behind twice? One time I had to hitchhike. One time they flew me back home, and coaching. Players turn back and say, "Shut up, you stinking Indian," to me, and I'm the coach. I'm going. I played professional hockey, and some guys very derogatory statements towards me there, and I had to fight my own teammates in the locker room. Coaches made fun of me trying to stick handling the puck and use a stick like a tomahawk. I said, "This is Ted Nolan stick handling." So where does it where does it begin and where does it end? It seemed like it was the whole time, and that's why I was so happy when I got out of the game, that I could won't have to go through that anymore. So there was a number of occasions that that happened. So it wasn't the best of times, but the game overruled the worst part. So that's why I stayed.
Thank you for responding to that question. It just goes to show us the work that is still there for everyone to do, because systemic racism and discrimination permeates many levels. It's in sports, it's in education, it's embedded in many areas of our lives. So what we do going forward, what can we be intentional in terms of undoing the systems that have been created over the years, and calling upon everybody to take the responsibility so that we can work together to create a welcoming environment for all. So thank you for sharing that. I'd like to read Tracy's comments to you. She says, Mr. Nolan, you are an inspiration and a natural born storyteller. It's those personal stories which empower our youth to persevere. Kinoomaage.
Thank you.
And another comment from Gwen, even while on the world stage of NHL, you never forgot who you are and where you came from.
No, that's so tragic. I had 6 brothers. It slapped me in the ear if I did try to change. So no, when you always got to remember where you come from. I mean, if you don't know where you're from and some of the rich history and stories, I grew up on a powwow trail. Yeah, I went from powwow to powwow, and in the 49ers at nighttime. And I mean, it was, I could, like I said, I had the best childhood I could ever ask for, and being around family meant a lot to me. And at the end of hockey seasons, everybody would go golfing, and I'd hop in a car, pack my bag, and come back to Garden River, because that's where my family is.
In one of your comments, you talked about the power of belief, and you said that the power of belief is very strong. You also talked about the richness of diversity and how the different ethnic groups add to the richness of our society today. And I would like us to take time and reflect upon that, because as we do equity and diversity and inclusion work, we have to go back and ask ourselves, why is this work important? And at this juncture, I would like to take the opportunity to welcome our President, Ozma Vezina, to make a comment. Welcome, Ozma.
Thank you very much, Jane, and just a huge thank you to you, Ted, for continuing to engage with the students and the faculty of Algoma University. The first time I met Ted, I shared with him last time we were speaking, was at Algoma District School Board. And we were getting ready to bus a group of students to the leadership, the Tim Hortons leadership camp. And I remember being struck by your commitment to young people and to leadership. And the second time I was able to listen to you speak and to talk with you was at the National Forum for Universities Canada, which we hosted here on the Shingwauk site. And your message and the legacy that you were speaking to around what your mother had instilled in you, and the values that you had taken, and the courage that she had given you through your life, and then what you presented at that forum that evening to the students of Algoma University through the scholarship donations was incredible, right? And I think what I want to share with you, I'm always very emotional when I listen to you speak, because you're so real and you speak from the heart, and you're really trying to make a difference, and you are making a difference. And I think today you've inspired this group, and they will go on to inspire others, and they will take your message with them. And I think that's what you do so eloquently. And we're so fortunate to have you as a friend of the university. When I go back to the Universities Canada event, you spoke to presidents from across the country. And I think every single one of them was impacted by the message and the importance of ensuring that we provide access to university education for as many young people as we can. And keep doing the work you're doing. So much bigger than hockey. So much bigger than hockey. You've been given a gift, and you're using it for the greater good. So miigwech, stay in touch. We really value your friendship and your message, and you give us a lot of hope for the future. So miigwech for being with us today.
Thank you, Ozma. Thank you as well for reflecting on those important moments that you have spent with Ted, and thank you for attending today's session. I'm reminded that what we have discussed today must continue within the broader context of dismantling the systems of racism and oppression that thrive in our systems in Canada here. It's not just in sports, it's in education, and it's across many institutions. Ted, as you're speaking, I wrote down some of the great inspirations from you, the 4 pillars that you talked about. And you really wanted to reflect on the 4 pillars and encourage the youth to think about them. But to me, I think these 4 pillars are very relevant to all of us. You talked about hard work. You talked about perseverance. You talked about knowledge and the importance of practicing, practice until you get it. You also talked about the power of belief. So as I reflect on those things, as I reflect on the 4 pillars today, I'm reflecting on the work that we all need to do, and especially on the many things that you've talked about today. You've been very open in sharing your personal story as an inspiration for many of us who are here, and even as an inspiration as we go out and say and speak with others about what we have heard today. I would like to go back to the questions that are being asked, and I'm going to ask one question from Brooke. Brooke says, hi Ted, thank you for insights that inspire and empower so many people. My 2 brothers played hockey, and you are a constant inspiration as a player coach and a champion of diversity. One of my brothers likely would have made it to the NHL, but struggled with issues that caused him to quit playing as a teen. To that end, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on destigmatizing and treating mental health and substance use issues. Did you find that players and coaches were well supported when experiencing this?
You know, I think that's one of the reasons why I got into coaching. I never envisioned myself being a coach, but when I got asked to, that changed everything, because I wanted to be a coach that I didn't have. I wanted to have a coach that asked me, Ted, how you feeling? You know, my whole career, no one ever asked me how I was feeling, or how are you, or where are you from? Geez, you got 6 brothers, 5 sisters. I didn't know that. You guys got powwows. No talking whatsoever. So the one thing I really wanted to do was to communicate. And sometimes you don't know what young people are going through. I never met an athlete that purposely wanted to play bad or wanted to. There had to be something that happened in their life. I mean, when I went away, I got the Buffalo job. My sister passed away that year. I mean, it was really hard to go through that, but no one ever asked, how you feeling? So I think what we got to add into the coaching ranks and all ranks is to have that good old common sense communication on communicating with kids, especially kids are coming in from the north, their first time away from home. It's tough to make friends no matter who you are, no matter where you're from. So that transition period is very difficult. So as a coach, I tried to make that transition to a player as smooth as we could possibly get. And if I knew one kid was struggling a little bit, I'd ask the captain to maybe take him out for lunch and take him to a movie and get to know him a little bit more, to start that dialogue because everybody needs a friend. So I think that's one of the real reasons why I wanted to coach, was to coach young me when I was a kid, because no one ever paid attention.
Thank you, Ted, for responding to that. I'm just looking through the chat to see if there are any other questions that I missed out. Angela, is there any question that I missed out?
Nope. I just want to say personally, on behalf of Shingwauk Anishinaabe Students Association, as president of the association, and on behalf of Shingwauk, Kinoomaage, Gamig, and the Algoma University Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Committee, we want to say a huge chimigwach to you, Ted Nolan, for joining us today, and also for your generous contribution to Algoma University, as well as to other Anishinaabe higher learning institutes like Shingwauk, Kinoomaage, Gamig, that offers the Rose Nolan Scholarship through your foundation. I am a lucky recipient of the first installment of that scholarship through Algoma University, and I can tell you personally that it has helped me substantially as I pursue my goals as a mature student, Anishinaabe Ojibwe Kwe, coming out of child welfare and just moving through life, trying to heal and understand who I am as an Anishinaabe woman, and inspire my own girls to get their education and be able to move initiatives that help our communities grow and become self-reliant and persevere through what we now know as Canada. So I just want to say thank you for that, and to personally thank everybody who joined on this call today for making space out of your time to listen to this exceptional leader and inspiring Anishinaabe and any of our people talk to us about his own experience handling racism. And we encourage all of you to continue doing your work, understanding what racism means, understanding how that impacts not only Indigenous people, but other nations, other cultures. And we hope that we can continue this cultural reciprocity so that we can live in harmony together on this great land that we know as Turtle Island. So Chimigwech, Jane Amalo, as well as Dr. Vivian Estrada, and the rest of our team at Shingwauk Anishinaabe Students Association for doing this great work and bringing you in today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angela. Chimigwech to everyone again. In my culture, there's a saying that says you can never say thank you enough. So Chimigwech again for everyone for tuning in. Ted Nolan, you're our hero today. Thank you for your generosity on your time, your wisdom, your openness, your humility in sharing from your heart. And for everyone who came, we wish you a great afternoon and thank you for tuning in. Thank you.